All right, folks, it's a little late for me to do a live stream today, so I'm going to do this upload and ask if you want to participate in the next live stream, maybe as a guest or as some sort of caller or something. We'll figure out how it works. Just put a comment, and you can also reach me at the email I'm going to post below for all channel related topics. Now, the topic, as you can see from the background, is going to be the issue of tech censorship, which doubtless you are already thinking about if you watch this channel regularly, as well as really the ultimate impact, because I'm starting to harp on it because there's very unlikely to be a future for freedom of expression worldwide without people actually doing something to embrace these alt tech platforms. And unfortunately, one of the experiences that people go through is that, yes, some of these alt tech platforms end up betraying their users or simply falling apart because of lack of an audience. I remember, I think it was almost 4 years ago, there was a alt tech platform called VidMe that collapsed because it simply couldn't accommodate the new traffic, and they decided, well, we're not really going to compete with YouTube. We're going to basically go out of business because we don't feel like upgrading and also adding features to become a real alternative. So since then, there have been other websites, and you can see a few of them below, that are saying, well, we want to be a real alternative because we believe in doing this, not because we want people to purchase stuff from other users on the website or purchase our stuff or sell their data in order to satisfy our corporate partners or anything, advertisers. They are committed to having their sites in order to provide that public space for you or I, even if you're putting forward speech that is in some ways reprehensible and not hospitable for the average viewer. There are people who are out there who say, well, we think that people deserve the ability to choose which speech they find to be tasteful and which isn't. Obviously, there are things that are illegal or that are, beyond the pale of, decent society. Things like CP, things like, divulging personal information that I would exclude from that. But in any case, we're seeing really the great battle of our time. I would call it the El Alamein of the 21st century, where you have this war machine that keeps going further and further into the, into cyberspace and saying, well, we know that officially we've told you, oh, you can say this as long as you adhere by the terms of service. Oh, we changed the terms of service and now you can't be on our platform. Go join a different platform. Oh, that different platform has content that we find offensive. We're going to remove it from the app stores. We're going to decouple it from payment processors. That is what we're seeing. It's just this continuous advance, and the few websites that are around that are willing to take upon themselves to provide people with that alternative space, right? And then those platforms need your support. Now, I did want to talk today about a couple different issues that are related to this. The first of them is actually not a good story. It's a little bit, it's typical, but and it's not surprising, but it is disappointing. So I have used this service called MeWe, but I never really got into it. I started to think this is a website that attempts to as closely copy the Facebook experience as possible. The interface is very much like Facebook. and it's designed in order to attract the older, you know, middle-aged Facebook user, people who are Gen Xers or possibly even baby boomers or older. And when push came to shove, MeWe says that you can't do stop the steal campaigning on MeWe, right? And I find that to be just basic, right? If the whole reason that this crackdown is happening is because of the stop the steal campaigning, then why are you suddenly saying, oh, all you users who are fleeing from Twitter or from Facebook because you can't talk about this topic, which obviously is very controversial, that the media is not willing to discuss honestly, that George Stephanopoulos is telling a sitting senator to shut up about because he says, oh, you're just a liar, blatantly on TV. And yet, an alt tech platform has said, well, we're just not going to allow any of that discussion. It's unacceptable. And I told the few people that I know that are on MeWe that they might as well start leaving it. And look, if you run an alt tech platform and you're saying, we don't want you to cover certain subject matters that the media will find offensive, then why even call yourself an alternative technology platform? You're just a minor competitor to conventional tech, right? Unfortunately, and this is segueing into the next theme that we're talking about today, the free speech that is worth defending is the free speech that you find inconvenient and disagreeable, right? I don't expect people to put comments on each and every one of my videos saying how amazing it is what I'm saying or how it's invigorating to listen to me. Unfortunately, there are people who they put comments on my videos that, they are not they're not flattering, right? There always have been. It's not for a video like this, but certainly videos including ones where I addressed the USS Liberty controversy. I got a lot of flack for that, or addressing the 9/11 controversy, and I think you'll know who I'm talking about, which videos. So there are people who have a strong attachment to that topic, and if you disagree with them, they suddenly fly off the handle and they start insulting you and things like that. And my typical response to that has been, no, I'm not going to report these people. I don't even care what they say. They can put whatever they want because they're not actually offering a counterpoint to what I'm talking about. And look, if they want to put up a video where they want to prove whatever it is that they're talking about, I'll decide whether to watch the video or not. And that's really something that I think goes to the core about what alt tech is. Yet you can debate things freely. You can choose not to debate. You can choose to ignore people. You can choose to mute people. You can choose to comment. You can choose to ignore comments. That's really the essence of these different platforms that are developing, and it's not really something that's going to be easy. It hasn't been easy. As I explained with VidMe, they had the chance to be a real alternative back in 2017 when there was a very obvious need for alt tech, for an alt tech alternative to YouTube at the time. They missed opportunity. And such an opportunity, others have tried to grab it. Apparently, this is according to the Quartering, a website called Storyfire, which I wasn't even aware of, it has like an interesting design, but they all have sort of gaming oriented designs. So they've decided, well, we're going offline. We're not even gonna, they didn't get enough support. That really is one of the issues that I also want to talk about. So MeWe, a lot of its users continue to maintain a robust presence on Facebook itself. One of the reasons that these platforms are continuing to flounder is because people are having trouble letting go and realizing that the big tech companies, they don't really need them. They need them only in the sense that they are uh, they're a way for them to mine their data, sell it to companies that in turn sell it to advertisers, and that's all they really need from you. They don't need your opinion. They don't need your preferences. They don't even know what you think about the spring training this year, whether the Padres are going to make the playoffs or anything. They do not give a shit what you say. And that's the way it is for any large corporation, political party, or big institution. The people who might care about what you think could be people in your neighborhood or your family or your spouse or the people that you drink with after work or something. And that's the best. It's not great advice, but it's the best advice I can give you. Go, reconnect with some people that you already know in your real life. Use social media to connect with the people that are closest to you, but you can't really see day to day. And, for me, it's been really liberating not to use Facebook that much at all, only to use it to message some people that continue to claw and gasp about, I want to continue to share my opinion on Facebook. It's that important. Your opinion on Facebook does not matter. Neither did mine. And your opinion on most of these platforms is it's just being it's circling the drain right now, right? This video is going to go up on YouTube. It will probably see about half of the views that the counterpart video will see on BitChute. Some of the other platforms, I wish they were doing better, like Odyssey. I think Odyssey is a fantastic platform. I think Rumble is not bad if you can get it an upload. But the bottom line is that these platforms are growing. You're seeing both Rumble and BitChute crack into the top 400 websites now. And I think by next week, you'll see one of them crack the top 200 websites in the United States. To clarify, yeah, I'm only talking about the United States. I'm not talking about the world. But the crux of this argument is once you go to these websites and you start to actually use them, the extremism that you see as so problematic will become diluted, because the more people who go on who are like-minded to you, now I don't really care if you're an extremist out there, if you're watching this video, sure, watch my video, hate on my video, that's fine. But you have to realize that for that platform to work for the extremist, for you as the extremist, you need other people to come on as well, right? And I doubt your goal is going to really be served anyway. But if you want the platform itself to be viable, for there to even be a reason for you to be on it, you want normal people to be on it too. And I think it actually benefits both. When you have a very diverse choice of topics on a website, that's what really makes it attractive. That's what garners an audience and has people come on and decide that they want to put their product on it. They want to show their art. They want to maybe put a short film together, maybe produce a song or something. And that's why people start to really visit Alltech who don't necessarily gravitate toward it. That's why people started to visit social media. Why was YouTube such a hit back in the day? Because you could find videos on YouTube that otherwise you could only find if you waited during the day on one of the video channels, the music video channels, for example, VH1, back when they actually had music videos, right? Or Much Music or Fuse. So that was, remember, there was the song Video Killed the Radio Star. Likewise, YouTube killed the MTV VJ. There is no MTV anymore, partly because of websites like YouTube where you can just put a playlist together. And that's something that I credit YouTube with. They helped to break that big tech monopoly at the time. They weren't big tech. They were fighting against this. It wasn't as if these channels like MTV were trying to control what you were watching. They had the control, right? They had it automatically. That's the way it was designed. So instead, now YouTube is basically saying, well, now you have too much freedom. We're going to limit it, and we're also going to curate what you see and decide that we're going to send you to crap that you don't care about, right? And it's not that there aren't things that are safe on YouTube that I think are, it's not like it's bereft of any redeeming value, but the idea of having a choice is what I think makes the internet so powerful, right? Having a choice of what to read or what to listen to is really the value of having that tool. And that's what I think all tech should seek to be. So when MeWe does this, that is a blatant betrayal, right? This is from Big League Politics. I will try to include that in the description. I know my description's already cluttered. And then another related issue that I want to talk about is the whole dust up concerning Stick Sex and Hammer. Now, those of you that have been watching this channel or his channel know that I've always been a big supporter of his. Don't necessarily, he's pro-choice. I'm pro-life. He's a pagan. I'm definitely not. I'm practicing Jewish. But I think that you have someone in him, a guy who is clearly proud countercultural person, and I think he does display not only the trappings of being in the counterculture, he lives it, right? And the reason that he's become a big topic for today is because apparently the Hawaii Republicans tweeted out one of his videos. And in response, some of these tech cancel people, some of these Twitter cancel blogs went after the Hawaii GOP and said, hey, you're platforming this guy. And what they started to do was to revive something that's a pernicious lie about Stick, Sex, and Hammer. And I know that he's a person he has like sort of a tremendous ego. He's a glutton for attention, an attention whore, as the less sensitive would say. But they were saying, well, this guy is a Holocaust denier, and he's openly, he's openly anti-Semitic. This is a blatant myth, right? Stick, Sex, and Hammer's opinions on the Holocaust, I believe they have, I think back maybe 10 or 15 years ago, he had some sort of issue where he was talking about it as if he had doubts. He apparently at some point, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, said, no, I actually do believe in the Holocaust. I think that it totally happened. And he made a video where he lampooned a lot of these alt-right commentators. It was before they were even called alt-right. They were just some of these white supremacist groups. And they're using this video where he's ridiculing them as evidence that he is one of them. And this is something that happens all the time. It's happened. That's one of the reasons YouTube became ruined, is because of people who produce satire that involves imagery or imagery or themes concerning World War II and concerning a certain group in World War II that even if you mention them on YouTube, you get a strike sometimes, or your content gets limited or put into restricted mode so children can't watch it, right? So it happened to Count Dankula, for a person who's clearly he's actually far left, for those that know about him. It's happened to Stefan Molyneux. It's happened to a lot of creators, and it's one of the reasons that you can see that this is just a bad faith trend that's been going over and over and over again. And they try to say that, well, this defines the entire libertarian side of the spectrum. It defines conservatives. It defines everyone except for us, except for those of us who sit in these glass structures in Silicon Valley and pontificate to people about what they can say or do. And what's really ironic is in the past couple of days, Antifa accounts, and I don't even know if you're allowed to say Antifa at this point, because only a few months ago they were supposedly the standard bearers of freedom. But they've been banned by YouTube, or no, I should say they've been banned by Twitter. Twitter, by the way, had a little retreat today. Their stock went down a little, but they've been up and down lately, so we don't know what's going to happen with them. In any case, this this purge of Antifa accounts, what does that effectively say? You have a corporation that has disproportionate power in the media because so many media people use Twitter, right? So there's this disproportionate power, and they get to say who gets to speak on that platform, a platform that all the journalists watch for the utterances of its users, of its, especially celebrities or politicians. They've recently banned the president of the United States. So now this massive corporation, which has already banned people for what it deems to be, unacceptable speech crimes, they are now banning Antifa because suddenly Antifa is rebelling against the Democratic Party of Oregon and other such institutions out in the Pacific Northwest. So up until a few weeks ago or a few months ago, if you criticized Antifa, the common refrain from the media was, well, if you're against anti-fascists, what does that make you? Well, what does that make Twitter now? Right? That is the real problem with trusting any of these tech companies. And what happened with Styx Hexenhammer is that the Republicans still have not learned that if you won't stand up for all free speech, then you're not really standing up for free speech at all. And I want to make this clear. I don't think that inciting illegal activity, whether it's violence, whether it's sexual exploitation, whether it's things like that's not what anybody's talking about. So you can forget about using those examples, which, by the way, Twitter has a bad history of enforcing legal restrictions on those, right? Twitter won't actually enforce restrictions on violence or on child sexual exploitation. I can't actually say the term, but on the other hand, they are willing to ban people left and right for going against an official narrative. Meanwhile, you have the Republicans, like the Republican Party of Hawaii, which has now rescinded its tweet that was echoing Styx Hexenhammer. And they said, well, we apologize. We apologize for platforming this person, for amplifying his voice. If you are so naive as to think that this is going to placate them, then you deserve to be as far behind in representing Hawaii as you are. Hawaii is, by the way, I think either the most liberal or second most liberal state in the country in terms of its voting record. It's voted consistently Democratic at every level for decades. I don't even know if I think at one point they had a Republican governor, but she might as well have been a Democrat. In any case, that's really one of the reasons the Republican Party, I think, is such a weak institution, because they tweeted a person, Styx Hexenhammer. They swallowed the garbage from some of these advocacy groups, including an organization called Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Now, far be it from me to be somebody to defend anti-Semitism. I'm the target of it. A lot of people I know have been targets of it, people who are, in some ways directly related to me. And, it's not something I want to defend because it's something that directly attacks me. But the truth is that they're cheapening the definition of anti-Semitism here, because they're taking a video that was clearly satire. They are telling people not to tweet it out or not to tweet the person out who shared it. And they're basically saying that if you even express things that are in a made in a what's the word, trying to parody sentiments that we disagree with, well, you can be banned. So is now Campaign Against Anti-Semitism going to ban Sacha Baron Cohen because he had that infamous song from his TV show about the well, if you know what I'm talking about? Are they going to ban Mel Brooks movies like The Producers? It is it's an ironclad element of freedom of speech that you should be able to ridicule things that you find to be uh, your opposition, right? Things that you oppose, you should be able to oppose through comedy, right? And I give this right, it's not me, but the Constitution gives the right to do this to anyone. It's not the only tool you have, but it is a pretty important one. Um, so there's a very worrying trend, and if he gets kicked off of YouTube, I do take comfort in the fact that he's one of the biggest proponents of alt tech that there ever was. He's been one of the people who's continuously promoted BitChute, also has promoted Odyssey, now is promoting Rumble, which I'm sure that he's doing decently well on it. I think that at this point, people have to decide which side are they on. Are they looking at themselves and saying, this is me, I'm the victim, my speech is always being limited, and therefore just help me and I'll be a good boy? Or are they saying that this is a value that is essential for everyone to be able to enjoy a society where they're not living in fear, they're not constantly watching themselves so that other people don't rush them and trample their free speech rights? That's where we're sitting. And I think it's important enough to draw a line in the sand here. It's not something that you can just brush off as a simple exception to the rule, right? Especially not concerning him. He's one of the most, I would say, he's one of the more stalwart supporters of freedom of speech that's left on YouTube. Okay, the last two stories are also related to this. Okay, Walkaway campaign founder Bran Straka is charged in connection to the Capitol siege. Also a very troubling case. Not going to go in depth, but apparently he's being charged because he did say something that either in a tweet or he yelled it while he was at the Capitol about taking the shield of a Capitol police officer. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's possible that Brandon Straka could be convicted and maybe given some sort of jail sentence or something, or sentenced to time served or whatever. But the principle here is that you have a guy, Brandon Straka, important figure of the past couple years, founder of the Walkaway movement. He was one of the people who made it clear that, look, this isn't just about conservatism versus liberalism. The reason people are losing faith in the Democratic Party is because it's sort of left people high and dry. And these are people that I guess the media, they would say are, they're the most normal people in America. Like Bran Straka I think he's a hairdresser. He's a gay guy from, I think he's originally from Manhattan, but he might have moved west. And apparently in 2017, he started to research the issues of Russiagate, and he realized he'd been lied to by the media. There was a lot of blatant hypocrisy as well as deception going on, specifically with Rachel Maddow. And he made a complete flip from the Democratic Party to becoming a major Trump partisan. And I'd say that he became much more of a partisan than I would, right? Because I think that he's been not critical enough of some of the other issues with Donald Trump, such as his poor record on intervention, as well as his connivance with the Justice Department and the intelligence community reauthorizing the Patriot Act and issues like that, right? But setting that aside, what we're talking about here is a person, his movement has been entirely peaceful until now. The walkaway movement was not involved in any violent incitement over the past few years, and including during the Capitol Hill riot. And now he's being charged with some sort of crime here. And I'm not even sure I see what he's being charged with. But look, I don't think that this is something that we should take lightly. Look, I don't believe that we're going to be seeing a total crackdown yet, but it looks like that, at least in terms of technology. I think that the way that it's going with the Biden administration and its early problems, right? Its early messaging problems, we could see that the tech companies and people like that, they might realize that there's not really much to protect here, right? Because the people who make up these tech companies, the people who make up these corporations, will soon find themselves alone defending the Biden administration in some of these cases. If people start to see their taxes rise, if people start to see their wages depressed, and in some cases, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their livelihoods, there's massive civil unrest, and there's nothing Twitter can necessarily do to prevent that. They will find themselves literally standing alone defending this administration if things, don't go as well as they hoped, right? And there's no way to tell how far it'll go. Remember, under Obama, this is something important. The reason Barack Obama could be construed as a successful president was because he entered office, he was the candidate of hope and change. And he embodied that hope and change. He was an inspiring person for many, many people. Not for me specifically. I didn't really think he was that great of a leader. But I live in a city where there's a large, we're a majority African American city. A lot of these people, they looked up to him, still look up to him. You still see Obama stickers here. You don't see necessarily the same thing with Biden to the same degree. And I think, people here were happy to vote for Biden, even though the rest of the state voted solidly Republican. And the problem that I see that Biden has is he doesn't have any of those qualities as Obama. He's not an inspiring person. He's a very bland, calcified weirdo that people don't really feel comfortable talking about. Now, it doesn't mean people won't kiss his ass. It doesn't mean people will shine up that turd and make it look like a piece of shit. But the problem is that it's very hard to sell Biden, even to yourself, if you can't figure out why you like him. And it's the same problem the media is going through right now, because they don't really, they have to literally make up reasons to support him. Like for him having dogs, or for him having, a wife who I guess is a doctor or something. And that's really something that I think we have to start anticipating, which is, when are people going to get tired of this guy? Because he's just not an interesting person. So it's a huge difference between him and Obama, who was very photogenic, charming personality, he could hold an audience, right? It's the exact opposite with Joe Biden. And it's one of the reasons Biden was never a success as a candidate. Last story, in brief, Patrick Leahy is going to preside over Trump's second impeachment trial. I think Richard Leahy was the trailer park administrator in Trailer Park Boys, if I'm not mistaken. No, that was Jim Leahy. But in any case, those of you that watch the show know what I'm talking about. Patrick Leahy, this is a sign that this impeachment trial is going to be a joke, that the Democrats, I think, are going to try to bully their way through it. Patrick Leahy is a senator himself. Now, what they've decided is that because Trump is no longer president, you don't need the Supreme Court Chief Justice, to be the presiding judge over the trial. So you're going to have one of the Democrats, a partisan Democrat, have to swear an oath that he's going to try to be impartial, and he's going to be the presiding judge. And by the way, so of all the people they picked, it had to be the person with the highest seniority, right? The person who'd been there the longest. So Patrick Leahy, I think, is 84 years old. He is from Vermont, so he's a senator so old, and he's from Vermont that he's been forgotten, and he's older than Bernie Sanders. That's how ridiculous of a process this is going to be. He's also very boring, by the way. If you've ever heard him speak, he's just not interesting at all. Bernie Sanders, at least, is somewhat interesting because he gets like very curmudgeonly, and he's like, what do you mean you put lawn chairs over here? You're not going to put like real folding chairs or something, at his rallies or something. So Patrick Leahy being the presiding judge, I don't know whether it means that it's going to be less fair or the Democrats are simply going to be mailing it in, because he's not a very interesting person. And I think that when people start to realize just how uninteresting this is, they're going to tune it out, and it's going to be a failure. And just like the first impeachment trial was, people didn't really pay attention to that. They didn't know the underlying reasons for it, and it was largely for show. And this one's going to be largely for show. Do I think that he's going to be convicted? I don't know. It's hard to really decide right now. I think that they're going to fall short at the moment, but anything's possible. But that's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe to me on all of the platforms in the description below. I do want to show them to you, though. So this is BitChute. You can find me there. And on Odyssey, right? Lots of good channels on Odyssey. You can find me over here at Bold Like a Leopard, also known as Razor Ray McCoy. You can also find me on Rumble at Chef Leopard, and I'll talk to you later.